Welcome to C&K Trucking. I'm so glad you're joining our team, and I want to make sure you are safe while you're leased onto our company. I am Tammy Warren, and I am the Safety Director for our company. I want to introduce myself to you, and hopefully we'll meet in the near future when I visit your terminal. I've been in the transportation industry for 25 years. I started my career as a trial attorney in Chicago doing aviation defense work. During this time I owned a single-engine airplane, and I used to fly it to hearings, depositions, and just for fun. After about 6 years, I was hired by Schneider National in Green Bay, Wisconsin to handle their larger accident claims. While I was with Schneider, I obtained my commercial driver's license, and I was able to drive team with one of our drivers, and we usually delivered freight into New York and New Jersey from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I have worked at some other long-haul trucking companies, and I'm very happy at C&K because of our safety culture. I'm going to review our safety programs, policies, and training with you in this video. It is my goal and the goal of all the people at C&K to keep you and everyone else safe. We have created these policies to prevent accidents, injuries, and ensure that we comply with the regulations. C&K makes your safety and the safety of others our highest priority. We educate and train employees and independent contractors to stay safe while complying with the federal, state, and local laws and regulations. As a company, we are all responsible for safety. You and everyone else is empowered to perform your job in a safe and efficient manner. C&K maintains a written drug and alcohol policy that you will be given a copy of during orientation. Please refer to this policy if you have any questions. You can also find a copy of the policy on the C&K website. The biggest thing to know about our drug and alcohol policy is that we follow the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations. In case you need to have a random or post-accident drug and or alcohol test, we request that you keep a chain of custody form in your tractor. This will expedite C&K getting the results of any tests that you may take. I'm going to review the most important parts of our policy. At C&K, we have several types of drug testing. First is the pre-hire testing that you just went through. This testing is required of all motor carriers whenever they place a new driver in a tractor that is operated under the carrier's DOT authority. I will also cover the post-accident drug and alcohol testing when we discuss accident procedures later in the presentation. C&K is required to have 50% of our drivers randomly tested for drugs each year. We are also required to randomly test 10% of our drivers for alcohol. Drivers are selected for these tests by our Drug Program Management Company, DSI. They send us a list of the drivers that have been randomly selected, and the driver is notified by his or her terminal manager or dispatcher of where to go to complete the test. Finally, we can test a driver if they display behaviors that lead a trained employee to believe they are under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or both. This is a reasonable suspicion test, and it is conducted immediately, and the driver is taken out of service until the test results are received. Please understand that after you receive your pre-hire test, you can only be tested when you are in a safety-sensitive function. This means you are coming onto driving, or immediately coming off of driving. We don't ask you to get tested when you are off duty or when you have not been on duty. The drug test is for controlled substances, and these tests are very accurate. A split sample is taken, and if there is any problem, the second sample can be tested. If you have positive test results, you will be informed by a medical professional from our drug program. They will also inform our safety supervisor or myself of the result, and we will place you out of service while the matter is resolved. As I said earlier, we follow the federal regulations on alcohol testing. Under this regulation, you are allowed to have 0.02 but less than 0.04 blood alcohol content. Any test result greater than 0.04 blood alcohol content will be considered a positive result. I am the Designated Employee Representative, or DER, for C&K. In this role, I am authorized to place you out of service if you have positive results or refuse to take a necessary test. If you receive a positive drug or alcohol result, I will place you out of service, and you will not be dispatched until the matter is resolved. You will receive a call from a medical professional with DSI, and they will explain your options for resolving this result. If the positive test result stands, you will have your lease canceled, and we will report the result when we receive employment verifications. If you refuse to take a necessary drug or alcohol test, it will be considered a positive, and we will cancel your lease and report this to future motor carriers. Typically, a driver wants to delay taking a random drug test until a more convenient time. This is not allowed under the regulations, and we will encourage you to take the test immediately after you are notified. Accident and incident reporting. Please report all accidents regardless of fault, incidents regardless of size, all injuries to you or anyone else, and any cargo claims or fuel spills to your dispatcher or terminal manager as soon as you can. Both you and C&K have exposures whenever there is one of these kinds of events, and we want to investigate and resolve claims as fairly and as quickly as we can. When in doubt, please make a report. Most drivers are never involved in an accident, but if you are involved, here are some steps you can take. First, activate your four-way flashers, and if it is safe to do so, exit your tractor and make sure everyone involved is okay. Second, call 911 for an ambulance if it is necessary, and definitely for the police. Third, put your triangles out to warn other vehicles. Put one triangle in the center of the travel lane 100 feet behind the disabled vehicle. Unless you are on the shoulder, then place it on the shoulder behind you. Place a second triangle at least 10 feet away from the disabled vehicle, and if the accident is less than 300 feet from a curve or just over the crest of a hill, please put a triangle in place that will give oncoming traffic warning of the accident. Once the scene is secure, please start gathering information that will be needed for our investigation. Start writing down and taking photos of the license plates of the vehicles involved. Write down the names, addresses, and phone numbers of everyone involved, including the passengers and witnesses. Please ask the drivers of the vehicles for their insurance carrier information. If anyone does not want to give you their contact information, please take a photo of their vehicle's license plate. Sometimes investigators will arrive at the scene of the accident. Please be sure anyone you speak with at the scene was hired by C&K before you talk to them. Always cooperate with the police in their investigation by answering their questions. However, please don't volunteer information if you can help it. Please don't admit fault, apologize, argue, or fight with people at the scene. Photos taken at accident scenes are very helpful when we investigate the accident. C&K may hire an investigator to go to the scene, but since you are at the scene first, you have the best ability to get the best photos. You can use your cell phone camera and have the photos downloaded at your terminal, or you can send the photos by email. Please take photos before the vehicles are moved if you can safely do so. If you can get photos of all sides of the vehicles, even if there is no damage, that is very helpful. Please take photos of any skid marks or gouges in the road if they came from your accident. Try to get a reference point in the photo, since skid marks and gouges do not last very long once the road is reopened. It is not necessary to take photos of anyone that has been injured in the accident. Once the police have released you from the scene, please clear the scene so you are no longer a hazard. If you are involved in an accident involving a fatality, you'll need to have a post-accident drug and alcohol test as soon as you are released from the police. Also, if you are involved in any accident where a vehicle is towed for disabling damage, or someone is removed from the scene for medical treatment, and you receive a ticket for a moving violation, you will need a post-accident drug and alcohol test as soon as the officer releases you from the scene of the accident. We must complete the alcohol test within 8 hours and the drug test within 32 hours. I refer to this as the hearse, nurse, and tow rule. There are many ways to be distracted while you are driving. In particular, driving while distracted by cell phones, other electronic devices, and passengers increases your chances of having an accident. C&K has a policy that restricts all cell phone and electronic devices uses while driving. Please let your voicemail pick up calls and make any calls when you are parked in a safe location and off the road. We also know that having a passenger in your vehicle increases the amount of distraction and potential for having an accident. We don't allow passengers in vehicles leased to C&K to prevent this distraction and keep everyone safe. C&K has security policies in place to prevent cargo thefts and losses. These policies are intended to protect you as well as the cargo. Please do not drop or park any loaded containers or trailers unless you are at the destination or at an approved secure location. If you are the victim of any cargo thefts or losses, please report those to the police and to dispatch immediately so they can investigate the theft and we can recover the cargo. We use several different security devices at different terminals. At some locations we use the track lock device, and at other locations we have electric fencing and automatic gates to prevent thefts. When you are onboarded, you are qualified based on guidelines that we follow. We need you to maintain those same guidelines to keep driving at C&K. We will run your MVR at least once a year and in some cases more often. We will let you know if you have violations that exceed our guidelines. We will also provide you with a CSA report card showing you all the CSA inspections you have had while leased onto C&K at least 4 times a year. We have inspection facilities near each terminal that will inspect your tractor for a reasonable price. We also have random tractor inspections that are conducted by terminal staff that cover the tractor, lights, and tires. These are our most common violations. Finally, we work hard to avoid preventable accidents involving our drivers. We want to be sure that you and everyone else stay safe. If you are involved in any kind of accident or incident, please make sure no one is injured and contact the police or your dispatcher or terminal manager as soon as you can do so. We want to be able to defend you and the company by being able to investigate the accident or incident. We want to make sure that your tractor is safe and in working order. To do this, we have several kinds of tractor inspections. We try to make these inspections as painless as we can, but all are necessary to keep our tractors leased to C&K in safe and good working order. We require at least 1 annual inspection and possibly additional inspections. We also need to receive a monthly maintenance report from you each month that your tractor is leased on to C&K. You can turn receipts in with your monthly maintenance report so we have them in case we are audited. You will be given some of these forms in orientation. If you have to make any repairs from a CSA inspection violation, we request a copy of the receipt for the file in case the DOT audits us. We also have random inspections that are conducted by terminal personnel while your tractor is at the terminal. These inspections focus on lights and tires. C&K does have loads that contain household hazmat. We only have drivers that have the hazmat endorsement on their CDL pull placarded loads. If you do not have a hazmat endorsement, please do not pick up a placarded load. Instead, call your dispatcher and let them know. We never haul any of the hazmat that requires the $5 million in insurance coverage. If you have a hazmat endorsement, you'll receive extra Staymetrics points annually, and you will need to take online training when you are onboarded and then every 3 years thereafter. Please make sure you are knowledgeable regarding all the needed placards and that the placards are on all 4 sides of the container. Placards must be removed from the container when the hazmat is unloaded from the container to avoid fines. Finally, if you have a hazmat endorsement, you must have the emergency response guide and the hazmat compliance pocketbook in your driver's side door pocket so that it is easily accessible. You will receive these books during orientation. C&K works hard to maintain regulatory compliance, and we have most of our terminals using electronic logs. We installed and started using the logs before these were required, and the drivers that use these logs have lower violation rates. We review electronic logs daily, and if a violation is found, your terminal manager, their supervisor, and their supervisor will be advised so you can be contacted and the violation prevented. If you use paper logs, please turn those in daily with your other paperwork. These logs are scanned into an auditing system, and when the violations are located, your terminal manager and their supervisor will be advised, and you two will be contacted so we can prevent any future violations. Always carry a blank paper logbook, even if you have electronic logs. A blank logbook is required in the regulations in case the electronic logs do not work for some reason. During orientation, you will take an online hours of service course to establish a basic level of knowledge. In addition, we have people available for training on the hours of service regulations, and we have cheat sheets available for you to use when you have questions. Under the regulations, we need you to report all traffic violations you receive, whether they are in your tractor or in your personal vehicle. We also need to know if you and/or your tractor, trailer, chassis, or container are placed out of service. Please be sure to give your terminal manager any CSA inspection report that you receive so they can make sure any repairs have been made and they can return it to the state. Finally, if you are arrested or convicted of any traffic or criminal offenses, please let your terminal manager know. Your terminal manager will make sure this information is reported to the correct people in the corporate safety department. CSA is only a few years old, but it has changed our industry. As a motor carrier, we manage our basic scores carefully. As a commercial driver, CSA has given you a scorecard that is available to your current motor carrier and any future carriers in the form of your pre-employment screening program. There are 7 basic scores tracked in CSA, and each score is calculated by a formula that assigns a number to the violation based on the perceived likelihood that the violation will lead to an accident. Interventions are audits or investigations conducted by the state on a motor carrier and, in some cases, individual drivers. These can range from an investigation of a single basic to a full-blown DOT audit. If violations are found, the carrier can be fined or have its rating changed. If a driver is found to have enough or serious violations, the driver can lose their CDL and driving privileges. This is the CSA process from the beginning to the end. As you can see, inspections and crashes are fed into the basic formula, and then a determination is made regarding the rating. If there are enough violations or a few serious violations, the state DOT will conduct an intervention which results in a change of the carrier's rating in some cases. As with everything with the government, the word BASIC is an acronym for Behavior Analysis Safety Improvement Categories. There are 7 categories which are measured relating to the motor carriers and commercial drivers. Each BASIC has its own score, and each score is a number from 100 to 0. This is like a golf game, and the goal is to have the lowest score. Also, each score has a threshold. The threshold is the score that establishes the maximum score a carrier can have before they are potentially subject to an intervention. We'll review each basic. You can see how you affect the basic and how you can prevent violations in that basic. Unsafe driving is based on traffic tickets and warnings the driver receives for their driving in a commercial vehicle. All violations count regardless of whether there is a ticket or a warning. The only exception is if you go to court and get the ticket dismissed by a judge. Those violations can be removed from your and the motor carrier's CSA score. If you receive a warning for a violation, you will not have the opportunity to go to court and get that violation dismissed. A standalone basic is a basic that can be used solely as a reason for an intervention. If the motor carrier has a score over the threshold for this basic, the carrier can receive an intervention. As you can see from this sample of unsafe driving violations, some violations have a severity weight of 10 points. This is the highest number of points you can receive for a violation. I want to point out that using a cell phone while operating a commercial motor vehicle is a 10-point violation. This means that you are holding the phone while driving or while stopped at a traffic light. Also, please see that not wearing a seatbelt is 7 points. More points than speeding or following too close. Please wear your seatbelt. It keeps you safe and it prevents these violations. Fatigue driving is driving a commercial motor vehicle when ill or tired. It is also hours of service violations. As you can see from the slide, you receive points for form and manner violations as well as not having your logs up to date. Most of our locations use electronic logs, and these violations are eliminated if you are using your electronic logs properly. Driver fitness is all about qualifications. As you can see from this basic, none of the point values are as high as 10 like the other basics. Don't let that fool you. Virtually all these violations will include putting the driver out of service. Every out-of-service violation gives a 2-point kicker. In other words, 2 points are added to the original violation. So if you are found to be in violation for not having a valid CDL, you receive 8 points for the violation, but you also get 2 extra points for being placed out of service. This gives you the maximum of 10 points. Driving with an invalid license most often occurs when your license is suspended by the state for not paying a ticket or other payments like child support. C&K's Safety Department tracks the expiration of your credentials, and you will be notified when one of your credentials is close to expiring so you can get it renewed and keep getting dispatched. If you have a history of having your license suspended, C&K will run your MVR monthly to make sure your license is valid. We will also send your MVR to you to ensure the address on your CDL is one where you receive your mail, since this is the address where the state will send you notices of suspension. Vehicle maintenance is fairly obvious, and it's a challenge for C&K. As I mentioned earlier, C&K conducts several inspections on tractors leased onto our company. This is in an effort to improve the safety of the tractors and to reduce our vehicle maintenance CSA score. The most basic common violations are lights and tires on tractors, and these are easy to see on a pre-trip inspection and need to be fixed before the tractor is taken on the road. As you can see, inoperative lights and tire violations have high point values. If we could eliminate these violations, our score would drop dramatically and bring it well below the threshold. C&K pulls hazmat, and we comply with all the regulations for pulling the hazmat. If you have a hazmat endorsement, you know how complex the rules are to follow. If you do not have a hazmat endorsement, please do not pull any placarded hazmat loads. If you are dispatched on a placarded load and you do not have a hazmat endorsement, please call your dispatcher and do not pull that load. C&K follows the federal regulations regarding controlled substances and alcohol. I already reviewed the basics of our policy, and compliance with the policy has kept C&K's controlled substance basic without violations. Every DOT recordable accident is included in the crash indicator. A DOT recordable accident is the hearse, nurse, and tow I discussed earlier. The DOT does not distinguish between DOT recordable accidents that are preventable and those that are non-preventable. All DOT recordable accidents are included. There are several different interventions that a carrier can receive. Each intervention is issued based on the violations being investigated. For example, if a carrier has a high level of violations in a standalone basic, the carrier may receive a warning letter advising them to take steps to reduce their violations in that basic. Sometimes officers may target certain carriers for inspections, and those are targeted roadside enforcement inspections. If the carrier has just one basic that needs to be investigated, the DOT can conduct focused off-site investigations and send that carrier a letter asking them to submit specific information to the DOT for review. The DOT does not visit, and the investigation is limited to just the one basic and not all of them like a full audit. The intervention most familiar to all of us is the focused on-site investigation or comprehensive review of a motor carrier. In the full on-site investigation, all aspects of the carrier's DOT compliance are audited by investigators, and this process can take weeks and can result in a change in the carrier's DOT rating. When the audit results in violations, the carrier needs to submit corrective safety plans that will prevent future violations. The DOT may conduct a second audit to make sure the corrective action plans are working and the violations are being prevented. If the carrier has certain violations, they may be subject to fines or other penalties. Sometimes these fines and penalties can be negotiated and settled for a reduced amount. The worst situation is when a carrier is placed out of service and can no longer operate. This occurs when the carrier has either too many serious violations or they are not able to make the corrections and prevent future violations. CSA scores are based on roadside inspections. The best way to prevent having violations is to avoid getting inspected. Most inspections occur when the officer observes that a driver violates speed laws, or there is something about the equipment that the officer can see that makes him want to take a closer look. Having all your lights working and no visible violations will prevent being pulled in for an inspection in many cases. C&K leases on experienced drivers, and we continue to provide training to these drivers to make them successful in their career. We do this training through quarterly safety meetings at each terminal. We also create and post flyers and posters with new information. We send timely messages to your tractor on the phone, and we sometimes send emails to you with new information about certain events. We have online training that is available to you anytime you have access to the internet and either a computer or a smartphone. Finally, we have people available to train you over the phone if you have questions or need some help. It is our goal to make sure you are safe and you are successful while you are leased on to C&K. We will provide you with assistance to use our technology and provide you with information you need to make smart decisions for you and your business. We will make people available to you when you have questions or you just need help. Welcome to C&K, and I look forward to meeting you in the near future.